The view war begins. It all started on a warm Saturday morning when I was out back trimming the branches of my giant oak tree, the same tree that had been standing tall since my grandparents built this house. Birds nested in its upper branches. Kids in the neighborhood used to climb it. And honestly, it was the heart of my backyard. But that peace was shattered the moment Karen appeared, clipboard in one hand, phone in the other, sunglasses perched on her head like she was patrolling a crime scene. "Excuse me," she called out, in that tone that could curdle milk. "Your tree is blocking my view of the hills. HOA policy states that any obstruction to a neighbor's natural sight line is subject to removal." I wiped my hands on my jeans and looked at her, trying to stay calm. "Karen, this tree's been here for decades. It's part of the property line." Karen smirked. "Well, I didn't approve it when I moved in, so it needs to go." That line told me everything I needed to know. This wasn't about a view. It was about control. She'd already complained about my mailbox being the wrong shade of brown, and that my recycling bin was visible from the street for 10 whole minutes last week. Still, she wasn't ready for what was coming next. The next day, I got a formal HOA notice taped to my door, signed by none other than Community Compliance Officer Karen. It stated I had 14 days to trim or remove the obstructing foliage. I stood there staring at the paper, my jaw tightening. The nerve of this woman. But instead of losing my cool, an idea sparked in my mind. Something creative, something bold. If my tree was such an eyesore to her, why not make it the ultimate attraction? That night, I pulled out an old sketch pad and started drawing plans. Not for cutting the tree, but for building on it. A treehouse, but not just any treehouse. Something grand, unique, and entirely within the law. A treehouse hotel. The idea made me grin. What better way to annoy Karen than to legally enhance what she hated most? I'd make it visible, vibrant, and 100% code compliant. Over the next few days, I called a few carpenter friends, got permits, and ordered materials. The sound of drills and saws filled the air. And by the end of the week, the first platform was up. Karen appeared again, of course, this time practically foaming at the mouth. "What are you building now?" she demanded. I looked down from the ladder, smiled, and said, "Just improving my view." Her jaw dropped, and I could almost see the steam rising from her ears. The war had officially begun. The next morning, construction was in full swing. Hammers, drills, and the smell of fresh cut wood filled the air. My carpenter friend, Mike, whistled as he worked, completely unaware of the storm heading our way. In the form of one furious HOA Karen. Right on schedule, she stormed out of her house, her phone camera already recording. "Excuse me. Stop. Stop right now," she shrieked, waving her clipboard like a traffic baton. Mike looked at her, confused. "Ma'am, you the building inspector?" "I am the HOA enforcement officer," she declared proudly. "And this construction violates neighborhood harmony regulations. You can't build. Whatever this is." I stepped down from the ladder, keeping my voice calm. "Actually, Karen, I've got a city-approved building permit. This is entirely legal." I handed her a copy, laminated just for this moment. Her eyes narrowed as she read it. "You have got to be kidding me." "Nope," I said, grinning. "See that signature? Officially approved by the county. The structure's safe, permitted, and over 15 feet from the property line." Karen's face turned red. "Well, it's ugly. It's ruining the neighborhood aesthetic." "Funny," I said, glancing at her plastic flamingo collection. "I was thinking the same thing about your lawn decor." She gasped like I'd just insulted royalty. "This isn't over. I'll have the HOA president review this." By the next day, she'd made good on her promise. 3 members of the HOA board showed up, all wearing polo shirts and forced smiles. Karen hovered behind them like a general sending her troops to battle. "Mr. Thompson," said the board president, clearing his throat, "we've received numerous complaints about your construction project." I nodded politely. "Complaints from one person, you mean?" They shuffled awkwardly. "Well, yes, but we must investigate." So I led them around the treehouse in progress, the sturdy wooden beams, the eco-friendly design, and even the cute rope bridge I'd added just for fun. By the end of the tour, even the board members were impressed. "This is actually quite innovative," one of them admitted. "You even followed all setback regulations perfectly." Karen's jaw dropped. "What? You can't be serious." This monstrosity blocks my view of the hills. The HOA president sighed. Karen, we've reviewed the rules. There's nothing in our bylaws against tree houses. As long as it's permitted, he's free to build. Karen looked like she might actually explode. Karen, the president said gently, maybe. You should just plant taller flowers. The look on her face was priceless. As the board left, Mike whispered, Dude, she's gonna go nuclear after this. I smiled, tightening a bolt on the new balcony. Let her. I'm just getting started. By sunset, the frame of the Treehouse Hotel stood proudly against the sky. Karen's curtains stayed drawn all evening, but I could sense her glare burning through them. The war wasn't over, but I was definitely winning. The following week, my peaceful neighborhood transformed into a battleground of flyers, gossip, and camera flashes, all thanks to Karen's newest obsession. Operation Stop the Treehouse. She went door to door, handing out printed leaflets that screamed, Protect our views. Stop the Treehouse Hotel before it's too late. She even had a little logo, a tree crossed out with a big red X. You'd think I was building a nuclear plant, not a wooden getaway for weekend guests. When I stepped outside that morning, I saw a group of neighbors gathered around her front yard, listening as she delivered one of her fiery HOA speeches. This so-called Treehouse Hotel, she shouted, is a threat to our community's harmony, safety, and visual integrity. I couldn't help it. I laughed. Morning, everyone, I said, waving cheerfully. If anyone wants a free tour of the Treehouse Hotel, I'll be giving one at noon. Complimentary lemonade included. A few neighbors chuckled. Even Mr. Jenkins, who usually avoided neighborhood drama like the plague, raised an eyebrow and said, Hotel, huh? Might be fun for my grandkids. Karen's face turned crimson. Don't encourage him, she hissed. He's exploiting a loophole. But it was too late. By noon, half the block showed up. People were taking pictures, asking questions, even suggesting names for the treehouse. My personal favorite came from a little girl, the Branch Inn. Karen stood across the street, fuming behind her sunglasses, watching as her plan crumbled. Then, things escalated further. A neighbor posted a short video of my treehouse tour online. Within hours, it started getting views. By the next morning, a local news outlet picked it up. Man builds treehouse hotel to spite HOA. Internet applauds. The story exploded. Comments flooded in. Legend. Justice for tree owners everywhere. Karen versus nature. My money's on nature. Karen nearly lost her mind. She called the HOA emergency meeting, claiming the neighborhood was being mocked worldwide. I attended, of course, in my new t-shirt that. The HOA board tried to keep things civil, but Karen went on a 20-minute rant about internet humiliation and community integrity. Finally, the board president interrupted her. Karen, we can't regulate someone's popularity. The construction is legal and the attention isn't harmful. She gasped. So you're letting this circus continue? He sighed. Frankly, it's boosting our town's tourism. We've had calls from travel bloggers. Her expression froze. For the first time, Karen was speechless. After the meeting, I walked past her and said with a grin, Don't worry, Karen, you'll still have a great view of my guests checking in. That night, the treehouse's fairy lights flickered to life. From my porch, I saw neighbors smiling, cameras flashing, and kids laughing. Karen's house? Dark. Curtains drawn. The war wasn't just local anymore. It had gone viral. The big day had arrived. The Treehouse Hotel was finally complete. Lanterns hung from the branches. Soft string lights wrapped around the trunk. And a wooden sign out front proudly read, Welcome to the Branch Inn, stay above the rest. Neighbors gathered along the sidewalk, phones out, snapping pictures as local news vans pulled up. Even the mayor's assistant came to check it out, claiming it was the most creative, eco-friendly build in the city this year. Of course, Karen wasn't having it. She watched from her porch, arms crossed, lips pursed so tight they could crack glass. Every cheer, every camera flash seemed to fuel her rage a little more. By noon, the ribbon-cutting ceremony was underway. I stood by the entrance, scissors in hand, thanking everyone for their support. This tree's been part of our neighborhood for generations, I said. It's not just a tree, it's a symbol of growth, community, and maybe a little bit of peaceful rebellion. Laughter rippled through the crowd. Then, right on cue, Karen charged out of her house like a storm cloud in sneakers. This is an abomination, she shouted. A commercial property in a residential zone. The crowd murmured. I smiled calmly. Actually, Karen, it's a private short-term rental, approved under residential hospitality laws. Want to see the paperwork? I held up the permit again. The same one that had haunted her since day one. Her face turned beet red. You can't just, you this, she stammered, waving her clipboard. But before she could finish, a little boy tugged at her sleeve. Miss Karen, can we go up in the treehouse? It's really cool. Karen blinked. The cameras were rolling, and for once, she hesitated. The crowd waited. Fine, she huffed, but only for safety inspection purposes. The audience erupted in laughter. She climbed the rope stairs, carefully muttering about liability issues. The moment she reached the top, she froze. Her frown softened slightly as she looked out at the hills, the sunset casting gold light over everything. It's quite the view, she whispered. I grinned from below. Glad you like it. That's the view you said I ruined. The crowd laughed again, and even Karen cracked a reluctant smile for about 2 seconds. By evening, the video of Karen's inspection tour went viral, racking up millions of views. Headlines read, HOA Karen finally admits, Treehouse has a better view. Bookings for the branch flooded in. Couples, photographers, even travel vloggers wanted to experience the tree that defeated the HOA. A few days later, Karen surprised me with a small knock on the door. I opened it, expecting another complaint. Instead, she handed me a flyer. Treehouse Hotel Partnership Proposal, she said flatly. Maybe we could offer HOA members a discount. I smiled. Welcome to the team, Karen. And just like that, peace, or something close to it, returned to the neighborhood. The war was over. The view had never been better.